Tennessee, Mr. Burchett for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ranking member. Thank you, Mr. Vought, for being here. I sit here and listen to the talk on both sides, and honestly, I just think about my sweet wife, my pretty little girl back home, and I kind of drift off into that. So I thank you for being here, and I'll try not to become that crusty old white dude from either side of the aisle that just sits here and grumbles, and I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions, all right? That's okay with you, brother?
It is.
Notice I said both sides of the aisle, so I'm not going after anybody. I do appreciate all of my members waiting to hear my comments as well, so thank you all. How does your budget plan to reduce and hopefully eliminate the waste of taxpayer dollars?
Well, we shine a light on it in a way that we believe is historic. For the first time, we have a whole chapter on waste, fraud, and abuse in this budget. It continues to be something that we work to root out within the top lines that are proposed here. We also want to make sure that we are dealing with inefficiencies and things that just don't make sense. When you own 25% of the land in this country, why do you keep spending on land acquisition? That's an example where we just feel like, from a common sense perspective, we can find savings in addition to waste, fraud, and abuse, and be able to get at some of the inefficiencies in government.
Because when you buy it, of course, it takes it off the tax rolls. We did that in Knox County. We got out of property we didn't need, and it put it back on the tax rolls, and it just made the economy move that much better. I appreciate that. And on a separate note, I appreciate the efforts this budget does for our veterans and what they do, and I appreciate our ranking members serving this country. What level of spending does the budget provide for veterans programs in fiscal year 2021, and how does that spending level compare to last year's funding level?
Sure, we have a 13% increase for VA. That's at $105 billion that fully funds the level that's required for the Mission Act. It's a very robust budget. This is a major investment in our nation's veterans to make sure that important law keeps getting fully funded. Last year's level was $93 billion. So that gives you a sense of the increase that we're talking about here.
And I think the ranking member, somebody said something earlier about the Bob Dylan artwork, and I actually had a piece of legislation that referenced that earlier on, and understood that was consumed into a larger bill, so I was glad to see that. I'm not against artwork. Actually, I have a degree in education, and one of the areas I was certified in was art education, oddly enough. I like art, and I like for my family to see it, like my little girl to see it, but the stuff at these embassies was in back rooms for the embassy bigwigs to enjoy, and it's supposed to be representative of America. Well, it was back behind a locked-in area, and to me, that money could have been spent a lot better elsewhere. And I realized $70,000 or $80,000 for a piece of artwork doesn't seem a lot to a Washington bureaucrat, but dadgummit, the people back in East Tennessee, that's a whole heck of a lot of money. And so I appreciate your efforts, brother, and I will relinquish the rest of my time so we can get back to some more rhetoric. Thank you, sir.
The gentleman from Tennessee is always generous with his time and helps us move it ahead. Thank you. His time has expired.